Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get started. Welcome to all of you at AFP Miami. We welcome you here to our Norwegian Cruise Line campus at Camillus House. My name is Eddie Gloria. I'm the acting CEO of Camillus House at the moment. I came back to Camillus House after a 6-year hiatus while I was at the West Coast of Florida, serving as the CEO of Catholic Charities in the Diocese of Venice. I spent 10 years before that here at Camillus House. I left as the COO and count myself extremely lucky and fortunate to have been in this system, to have grown up in this system, and to serve in such a great organization. Camillus House, as you know, has been here for quite some time, since 1960. We have an incredible history of service and support for people who are in need in this city. And we think it's a really special place. And as you can see, there's so much support for what we've done. And we feel naturally that by doing what we did, by building this incredible campus that you see, it's just one of 11 sites where we provide services. We've positioned ourselves as a great part of the solution to homelessness in the city of Miami and in Miami-Dade County. So we know who we are, because every day you drive north on 95 out of downtown, you'll see Camillus House. Every day in the mornings when you drive south, you'll see Camillus House. If you're going to the beach on the weekends, you're going to see Camillus House on 836. If you're coming back from the beach and you're tired after too many margaritas, you too will see Camillus House. Camillus House is a big part of this city. It's a big part of the history. And we know, because a lot of times I find in our team sometimes people say, hey, everybody's always calling us to solve the problems. And I'm thinking, of course, because you can't have built an $88 million super campus for the homeless, including a theater for the homeless, which I don't know if you know, and then expect that people won't look and think about you every time they see someone who's homeless on the street. And that's how it kind of goes. Even though there's a Miami-Dade continuum of care, and we have incredible partners. We know Miami Rescue Mission, we know the Chapman Partnership, these incredible partners, even the United Way, the Salvation Army, Steve Siegel. And who you should know, this gentleman right here worked with us too for some time, was doing estates, trusts, and wills. And I, after so many years, just said hello to Steve and said, Steve, do you remember me? I was that annoying kid who kept coming into your office asking a million questions. And he said, you're not a kid anymore because you have less hair. So I guess that's what qualifies me as grown up. Jessica Triana used to work with us here at Camillus House. And obviously we have an awesome development chief here in Christine Perez, who you all know. And so, yes. And I promise you, she did not slip me $100 bill to say that. She is wonderful. We really appreciate the fact that AFP Miami comes here, that we get to host you. We hope that you have a great time. We want you always to learn more about us. We welcome those conversations. Panelists, we welcome you all as well for being here today to talk about this very important topic. And I haven't met you yet, but it's a pleasure to have you here from the Milton Foundation. And I just want to say, I'm of Lebanese descent, so we have a lot to talk about there, right? And get to know about what you've done. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate having you here, Anna. And both of you for the incredible Lopez family. Marile, thank you. AR, it's a pleasure to meet you both. And I want to say thank you to Jorge Luis. Please give him my regards. He is a mentor to me and a hero for us. He was on our board for many years, and we appreciate everything your family has done for Camillus House as well in the community. Thank you all for being here. It's a pleasure. Thank you for your time. I'm going to hand it over to your president, Melissa, and you know your last name. I'm sorry, I forgot your last name. There it is, Melissa West.
Thank you. A round of applause for Eddie, please, and for Camillus House for hosting AFP Miami. This month and for the last few years, Camillus House has been AFP Miami's home, so thank you very much, guys, for that. Hello, everybody, and in the stratosphere there. How are we doing today? We're doing okay. We got a belly full of good eats here, yes. So I will not take up a lot of time. Just wanted to say thank you so much for being a part of AFP Miami. If you are an existing member or if you are a future member, we are an organization by fundraisers for fundraisers. Our board of directors is completely volunteer, and we provide educational opportunities, professional development, networking, etc. Please save the date. We started a book club this year. I know, like, we don't have enough to do, but we're doing books once a quarter. June 6th at 6 p.m. on Zoom, The Generosity Crisis, Author Nathan Chappelle is going to be talking with us about the book and its concept, The Case for Radical Connection to Solve Humanity's Greatest Challenges. You can RSVP. It is a free event. We encourage you to either buy or borrow the book and then go ahead and dig into it. So we'll have some good questions and conversations with Nathan. And then I know my team is going to talk a little bit more about our next educational event, but let me just bring them up there. So I'd like to invite Steve Siegel and Jessica Triana, Board of Directors for AFP Miami, and our education co-chairs. Guys, come on up.
Thank you. Welcome. It's really nice to see a full house of people. As Melissa said, I'm Steve Siegel. This is my co-chair, Jessica Triana. We have a really wonderful program for you this afternoon. And the two of us and our committee, our education committee, we're working hard to put together a great calendar of programs for the rest of the year. We'll talk more about that later. Today, we are delighted to present a conversation about generational giving. Joining us for what I'm sure will be a fascinating conversation are Ana Vega Milton and Marilei Lopez, along with Marilei's sons, Andres Raul, or AR for short. They represent two of Miami's most important philanthropic families, and we are thrilled that they could join us here today. So given our limited time this afternoon, we're going to give a very brief intro to each of our panelists. So I apologize in advance to all the three of you because we're cutting out 95% of your resumes. But I'm sure those in attendance here would much rather hear from you than hear me speak. So I'm going to start with Ana Vega. Ana Vega Milton was born in Cuba and emigrated to the US as a toddler after living a year in Spain. She was valedictorian for Southwest Miami Senior High and student government president. She earned a full merit scholarship to attend and studied electrical and computer engineering. She graduated with a perfect GPA and then earned a full merit scholarship to Law School, graduating summa cum laude. Today, Ana directs corporate social responsibility for United Property Management, owners and managers of almost 9,000 residential units in Florida. She also presides over the Jose Milton Foundation, which strives to close the opportunity gap in South Florida. She also co-founded the Cecil and Anna Milton Family Foundation, which supports conservation efforts and programs that serve our military and first responders. She holds leadership positions on many local organizational boards, which are too numerous to mention. She's also the proud mother of 3 adult children. So please give a warm round of applause to Ana Vega Milton.
Thank you. And before we start, I want to make sure your mics are on. We want to be able to hear everything. Is that red? Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Triana with AFP Miami on the Education Committee co-chair and also with the American Cancer Society. Can you hear me back there, Christine? Awesome. So I have the pleasure of introducing the mother-son duo, Marilei and AR. Marilei is the Chief Financial Officer at the Jorge Luis Lopez Law Firm, a governmental affairs firm representing municipal governments and Fortune 500 companies at the federal, state, and local levels. As CFO, she manages the financial reporting, income taxes, accounts receivables, and investments for the firm. Prior to joining the firm, Ms. Lopez founded and was the creative director for Maria Elena Headpieces, a successful bridal accessory company. She received her master's degree in business administration from the University of Phoenix and her bachelor's degree in health services administration from Florida International University. Marilei also dedicates time to serve the community through leadership roles and for a number of organizations in South Florida, many which I'm sure are in this room. She and her husband, Jorge Luis, have received numerous awards for their philanthropic work and leadership and are proud parents of 5 wonderful children, one of which is with us today. So please give a warm welcome to Marilei Lopez. And last but not least, we have AR Lopez here with us today. He is a lawyer and political analyst at the Jorge Luis Lopez Law Firm, where he helps build and manage successful businesses, governmental and political campaign strategies, which promote and defend the public policy interests of their clients in both the public and private domains. He received his Juris Doctorate from St. Thomas University Law School And while in law school, he served as the symposium editor of the Intercultural Human Rights Law Review. He also graduated with 2 bachelor's degrees from Florida International University, one in political science and the other in international relations. We are thrilled to have him join us today as well. So please give a warm welcome to A.R. Lopez. Thank you. So we've learned a little bit about our special esteemed guest today, and we wanted to give these guest families the opportunity to personally share some opening remarks about their own philanthropic philosophy before we get into it. And then we'll get into a series of questions. And we really hope that the conversation today will help build bridges of understanding across the sector and help us be more effective in our impact and our fundraising efforts. We find these conversations between the nonprofit sector and with our donors and philanthropists in the community to be conducive for just great work. With that said, I'll start with Anna on the other side of the room. Can you share a little bit about your family's philanthropic philosophy and just briefly how you've kind of seen it grow or change over time?
Yeah, absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you. This is actually the second time that I speak to AFP Miami. Once was quite a few years ago. But first, I want to say that my son Eric, I would have loved for him to join us, but he had a work commitment. This was a date that was set, weeks, months ago, and he could not get out of it. He's doing employee evaluation, so very important at his capacity. But he's also very involved in the community, and it gives me great joy to have actually my 3 kids, be very involved and very supportive. Regarding our philanthropic philosophy, I got started in philosophy because I wanted to support families. Miami was known for Miami Vice, for drugs, cocaine cowboys, all that good stuff. Not a great place to raise a family. And I was raised in Westchester, and I thought it was a great place to raise a family, and I wanted to stay here. So what was the best place I could get involved with? And that was, of course, Zoo Miami. Back then, I was the Zoological Society of Florida. When I became chair, I pushed to rename it Zoo Miami Foundation. And it was, for me, the best place for a family to gather. It kind of exemplified what Miami should be. It improves the reputation of South Florida. So that was my first foray into philanthropy. So I'm kind of taking that a few steps higher. And my main goal is to support families and make sure families have places to go and to be together and encourage them, to support each other and support children. And then, of course, I'll try to do anything to elevate Miami's status in the world. So I don't want to be known as the party capital of the world. I want to be known as a place with great universities, absolutely phenomenal state-of-the-art healthcare, and of course, a great philanthropic community where people care about their community. And the best way to show you care about your community and your neighbors is by giving, the 5 T's we were talking about a little earlier: time, talent, treasure, tithe, and testimonials. So by giving, it doesn't have to be money, but it does have to be some kind of an engagement and giving back. So that's what I try to encourage from the youngest generations, the youngest to the oldest. We all have something that we can offer.
Thank you so much, Anna. And there is so much more depth to Miami than just a party place, and we thank you for all that you do. Marila, could you share a little bit more about your philanthropic philosophy, your family's philanthropic philosophy, and maybe how that's kind of still resonated or changed over time for you?
Well, so an interesting thing as we pulled into the gates today. Can you hear me? Yes.
No.
Okay. So as we pulled into the gates today, and as Eddie mentioned, in 1994, I mean, this is way back, right? In 1994, the homeless trust was signed, and it was an act of Congress. And my husband George was there receiving that check and signing that act of Congress. And in 2004, through the general obligations bond, this beautiful building. And that's the testimony of how our Miami has evolved, right? From a thought to a reality. For 10 years, George served on Camilla's House Board and what it embodied. And what it embodied is helping the dignity of human dignity be fulfilled. Human dignity, because we're people of faith, My Catholic faith grounds me and bounds me to what we do. And that's pretty much my legacy, my thought process. I base it on my faith, our faith. So this building is a testament of that faith. This building was founded on that faith. And that is our philosophy of giving. That is our philosophy of philanthropy. It's our faith. It's our faith that bounds us. It's a faith that guides us. It's a faith that resonates amongst my family and amongst my giving. So that's my philosophy.
Thank you so much. We wanted to get a little bit deeper into, given that this is a conversation around multi-generational families and generational giving, given your family's unique philanthropic philosophy, how do you all come together? Marile and AR, I'll start with you. How do you all come together, even though there are varying values, and find consensus in your approach to philanthropy and to giving?
Good morning, and good afternoon. So my family, again, it's all about our faith. It's a faith-based approach. Catholic social teaching guides on who we are. Catholic social teaching guides on what we should do and what we give back. One of the simple ways we do this is quite literally at 6 a.m. in the morning, and that's why I said good morning first. 6 a.m. in the morning, we all sit together and we pray. And it's a tradition now that has continued. And now as it evolves with multiple siblings of mine, each individual goes through their almost to-do list of, well, what do you want to focus on this week? What do you want to focus on today? And so when we go to that, my parents have a very holistic approach to giving when it's our faith and when it's faith-based giving. But then individually, each child goes to a separate Catholic school and Catholic university. And each one's like, well, I've been mentoring this kid for this while, or, oh, I've been doing this for this small group myself. I've been doing St. Thomas More Society for a while now. And we come back together at the end of the day and say, okay, well, did you accomplish that goal? Were you able to have that meeting with your mentee? It's like, yes, we did, Dad. Yes, we did, Mom. Thank you very much. And so then we go back to this. And it's fascinating because at the end of the day, our Catholic social teaching tells us to do so. And because we're able to accomplish that, we're accomplishing that which provides human dignity to the individual and fully rounds about what our faith means to us.
Thank you so much, AR. And Anna, we of course want to hear from you and kind of your approach to marrying those different
Yeah.
opinions and values.
So we have a big family meeting with all, I call them my junior board, which is the third generation of Miltons. And we do that once a year, and we discuss everything that's happened and our goals. And we kind of do, I guess, a bigger extent to what you do every day. And we say what we're all individually doing, how can we help each other accomplish our goals with that respect? And, you know, our family is family, business, and philanthropy all wrapped into one. So every time we talk, it sounds like, oh, these people only talk business, but that's family. You know, these people are only talking about, you know, what mom is, you know, coming to this, panel discussion today, or what I'm going to do next, or which gala is coming up, or the American Heart Association luncheon, Go Red. And it's always something going on, whether we're going to go to the zoo or whether something. So we are all wrapped up into this. But other than that, we have a weekly Sunday brunch where we have with my mother-in-law, and we all gather together as a family. And of course, not everyone can make it every Sunday, but most of us can. And there we talk all out. You know, we say what we're doing, what's coming up, the plans. And then of course, we're super connected on chats and on emails, and we're constantly emailing each other, even little quotes that we like that maybe kind of transcend or kind of permeate kind of what we do. So we're very bonded. Even my daughter, who's in Atlanta, I've been getting some of her paperwork that she's been giving to certain organizations, like, oh, you're involved there. And she goes, yeah, Mom, because this is my home now. So I want to make sure that I can give back here. So it's kind of nice because it's become so ingrained that we don't even think about it anymore as something different, because it's just part of our DNA at this point, part of who we are. So I also wanted to say that wherever we give, one of our family members is involved and engaged. So sadly, that limits our giving somewhat, because I don't like to just give checks. I like to give checks, but I'm like, I'm much more than a check. I can actually give some good advice. I can actually help, and then I can pull some resources that you might not have access to and help that way. I can make connections. So I kind of consider myself a connector. They call me that at United Way because if you need someone, I may not be able to help, but I may know someone who knows someone and connect you that way. So that's what I try to do. Now, the younger generation has really influenced us because, of course, they're more into environmental issues than maybe my generation. So I've been really open about that, and that's why we started our family, our private Cecil and Anna Milton Family Foundation, because we wanted to cover those areas which we were not covering in the Jose Milton Foundation, which is health, education, and research. So, and we didn't want any overlap. So, we help our first responders, which was great. We actually founded the foundation before COVID, but it was really great during COVID because we were able to give the police, the Police Officer Assistance Trust some help. We actually made masks for them with the Miami-Dade County Police Department logo so that they were all consistent because they were all wearing masks, just making them up or just getting them. So that really helped a lot. Veterans, we've been getting more and more involved with veterans. And Fleet Week, it was great. We sponsored a bunch of the sailors to run on the Fleet Week 5K. And then my son ran the 5K. So we got, kind of a report back of what happened and how the soldiers were. And he said it was so cool to run, with the soldiers. And, he says, and I beat a lot of them. So it was, he felt really good about that. So we really, and then another area that they've really brought forth for us is, areas of inclusion, diversity and inclusion. So my daughter, especially, she's also an attorney, is always very gung-ho on how we write things and make sure, no, we have to focus on this and we have to be, more, I guess, deliberate on how we do things and make sure we capture, all segments of Miami-Dade County, which is a lot. So one of my goals is really to cover all corners of Miami-Dade County, which is not an easy task because you have all the way from Homestead all the way to North Miami. And just geographically, you can't just travel the whole county in a day. Just geographically, you're limited. But it's really important for me to have, presence in the South, in Miami Beach, in the North, and in, of course, the center and even Coral Gables, because there's needs everywhere. And like I said, it's not only just writing checks, but there's a lot more we can do. And there's a lot of resources that we can share that makes, life better for everyone living here.
Thank you, Anna.
Mhm.
It's really wonderful to hear the differences in your approach, but also there seems to be some sort of gathering and meeting of the minds that continues to kind of drive and move you forward. I'll start with AR here on this end, and I think this is such an interesting question because this could kind of shape your kind of vision and moving forward in philanthropy. Can you all share or describe your earliest memory of philanthropy and how that kind of made you feel or how it still resonates with you today?
So one of my earliest memories would have been the angel tree. So when we were little, we went to St. Peter and Paul Catholic School with Father Sanchez. Yeah. And after Mass, one, November, almost close to December to Christmas, there's this really big tree outside. We're like, oh, it's super nice. We've been thinking, oh, it's for an event, whatever. No, it was because there are small angels tied to this tree. And then my parents like, oh, pick a child and learn about what this is. And all of a sudden I realized, oh my goodness, these are children whose parents are incarcerated. And that really brought it home. I'm a kid. I love Christmas. They're kids. They must love Christmas too. They must want Christmas as well. So it really struck home when I'm like, okay, what can we do? What can I do with my siblings? And we picked a bike. We picked a kid from, actually, my dad picked me up. It wasn't me, it was my brother. My dad picked up my brother to grab one of the ones on the top because it was a bike. We all came together. He read this kid's name, and it was funny because it was something like Miguel Angel or something like that. It's very traditional. And all of a sudden, we're like, okay, let's see what we could do. We picked the bike, and we're like, oh my God, how are we going to get this done? How are we going to do this? Each of my siblings in their own little allowance, and we're like, this is what we're doing. And together we came, got the kid the bike, were able to bring it forward. Father Sanchez was like, God bless you. Thank you guys very much. And for that moment on, since we've been in St. Peter and Paul, and since they've had the angel tree event, we've always grabbed that little bike and made sure these kids have something just like I did as a kid to celebrate Christmas.
It's a beautiful story, Yara. Thank you. Did either of you want to share a memory, an early memory of some sort of philanthropic
So-
experience?
It's interesting because beforehand, we had many opportunities. We call it philanthropy now, but really, I mean, we're immigrants. We're Cuban immigrants. So my husband's family, my family, got a knock on the door one day and said, "You're out of here," right? And it's not like we could take my favorite bear or my favorite pajama or my husband's favorite whatever, right? We're children, and you leave it all behind. You literally walk out the door and leave it all behind. That's the first testament of knowing how to give it forward because you don't really care. It's a material thing. And I always had that in the back of my mind, how easy it is to give $1 because it doesn't really matter because you can make up that dollar, but it's your time that was invaluable. So when my mother-in-law was diagnosed with breast cancer, that my mother-in-law is she's my mother. She literally, I have 5 children, and she left everything to help me. And so I can continue working, so I can continue everything else. So when she got breast cancer, it was detrimental for me, for us. And that's when I found out more about how this disease impacted my life. How it impacted her, it impacted me, my life. And I reached out to the American Cancer Society. And it was Carmen Piles and Lillian Machado who showed me what they did at the American Cancer Society. And I became a volunteer. I became an active volunteer. And that was my first awakening to philanthropy. Yes, I had left it all behind in Cuba. That was material, didn't matter. But it did, in my mind, matter because I knew now what it was to be detached from things, and to be there for someone else, as I was there for my mother-in-law. And she was there for me, and she's now going on 18 years cancer-free. She's
Wow.
amazing. And it was American Cancer Society. So I'm so glad Carmen's here today because she'll remember that it was that organization that I volunteered with. I served the community. I went to Feel Good, Look Better, walks, talks, you name it, sat on the board. Then we became gala chairs and this one and that one. And ultimately, George served on the national board of American Cancer Society, one of 21 members impacting change that we see every day, from tobacco use to so many things. But it was my mother-in-law, right? It was my mother-in-law's diagnostic that changed my view of how I was going to do things and react to things, leaving behind material, paying it forward because of my mother-in-law. So that was my first, initiation to how can I help. Directly wasn't helping her, absolutely, because she saw me there doing that for women like her. So it was impactful. It still is, and I thank the American Cancer Society for opening their doors to me.
Well, thank you for all you've done for ACS. We appreciate that. And it's really amazing how personal experience
Absolutely.
kind of shifts the way you think about philanthropy and where you dedicate your time and your treasure, like you both have said.
Yeah, I'd like to
Yeah,
share one real
yeah.
quick.
Yes.
So my first experience with Girl Scouts when I was in 2nd grade. So I too am a Cuban immigrant. I came forth. We were Cuban family in Miami. We had lived in New York. I never suffered drastically like a lot of Cuban immigrants did because my dad's an engineer. And as an engineer, you can find work everywhere, which is one of the reasons I became an engineer and one of the reasons I drive a lot of STEM programs. And it's very important for me to convince kids, if you're good in math, you need to become an engineer. I don't care what you do after, just become an engineer, you can do anything. So that was very impactful for me, that transition. But Girl Scouts helped me become an American and feel like an American. And one of the things about feeling an American, and this was described by Tocqueville many, many years, I guess just in the 1770s, he said how the Americans were the most generous people he had ever encountered. Americans were willing to give to their neighbors, to help their neighbors, help people they didn't even know, help strangers. And I wanted to become American and be part of that legacy, that Americanness. And so Girl Scouts was really what started that. And, you know, getting involved now with Girl Scouts, I'm on the Girl Scout board. And after I swore I would never be on another board, but being part of Girl Scouts, it brought back all those memories about how having that experience really changed my whole family, because I would bring back everything I learned from our troop leader and from our Girl Scout, you know, meetings, which were every week. I would bring that back home and my mom would be like, oh yeah, we can do that. We can do that. And so it was like me being like a leader in my family, trying to communicate those things. So I'm very thankful to Girl Scouts, and I'm very thankful for that opportunity. And that was my first, when I learned about what it meant to give back. Also, you know, throughout high school, I've been involved in my school, in my community since very early on, because that really, I guess, planted a seed in me. And once you give, and I know you'll agree, it's addicting. It's addicting because it feels good. And when you see someone else getting the benefit or improving their life and their trajectory of their life and everyone that comes after them, it's just, it's intoxicating, you know, it's in a really good way. So giving is so much better than receiving. But what you don't realize is that when you give, you receive back in so many ways.
Thank you, Anna. I love, those are beautiful stories. AR, I had a question for you specifically. Could you share with us, besides your amazing parents, one philanthropic role model in the community or otherwise that has kind of paved the way for you, maybe?
So obviously, besides my parents, tough to follow, but I would have to say, and it's not in the local community, but it was in my community in New York. I had the honor of being a intern and then later on an advisor at the United Nations under Permanent Observer Mission to the Holy See, to the UN. So Archbishop Bernardito Auza has been a very big role model in my life, has been a very big mentor to me. And the ultimate thing that I saw him do that then became, oh my God, this is it. This is how he's doing work to give back to the community. He was going from 1,000,000 miles an hour. This is the ambassador of the Vatican to the UN, creating policy at a global level. But then every single Sunday, without skipping a beat, this man was sick and he still went all out and put on his little hazmat suit, which was yes, it was Pope shaped. So he would organize a give drive to give back to the local community. So he just passed legislation at the UN to better homelessness. And there he was making sure that in his community, in the local areas of New York that are not as well developed, we went there as a mission and we started giving back everything from food vouchers to mass and prayer service, ultimately going back to Catholic social teaching. We are taught to give back to our communities in a faith-based approach. And the way we do this is by making sure that not only in the global sphere, but in the local sphere, we're also doing that which God has asked us to do.
What were the red baskets called? Red baskets. They would give these. I saw it was impactful to me too, because I saw how they would gather missionaries, and in the United Nations, the Holy See, their interns are not just Catholic. I mean, they have interns of all different faiths, and the idea is because you want to build faith-based communities. So you had colleagues from different nationalities, different faiths, and they would come together and then they would do these things called the red basket. And the reason we know as well is because then they would reach out to us as families to donate, right, items and monetary possibilities for these red baskets, that they would go out into the community and hand out these red baskets to the needy. And then they have the Path to Peace Foundation, which is They honor, you know, different dignitaries or different people that have made impact globally. And it's a big philanthropic endeavor. And Archbishop Auza really just, that impact is so true. It's wonderful to have shared that.
Definitely an amazing mentor for you. Going on to the next question, and I'll start with you. How does your family measure philanthropic success when you're thinking about working with partners or on a project in the community?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question because you can look at all the statistics and numbers. I know the United Way puts out the Alice Family Report, asset limited, income restraint, employed, which really has not changed for the past year. So one of my questions to them was, here we are pouring our soul, you know, our bank accounts into this community, and the Alice numbers have not changed. We're still at over 50% at, you know, one paycheck away from poverty, pretty much, or homeless. And, you know, and the response was, if we didn't, imagine what would happen if we didn't have this influx of philanthropy to our community. And that really hit home because that sometimes stability is better than the alternative. So I look at those reports and I look at those numbers, and I also realize that Miami-Dade is a little special, is different because we also get a lot of transients, a lot of people that come and go, maybe stay here. And this has happened, and it kind of pisses me off in a little way that you help a family and then they decide that Miami's not for them, and then they go. And you're like, no, you're supposed to stay here. But you know, that's the way it is. The whole, if we help a community and that spills over and helps the world, I mean, that really is the goal. So that's one of the ways I measure success. And then another one, and we touched on this earlier, look at what happened lately with homelessness in major cities around the country. Miami did it right. We've been working at this for so many years that we don't have that problem. You know, I mean, we always have a little problem, but it's I don't want to say it's handled, but we work to make sure that people are treated with dignity. And that is very important to me. And that makes me very proud of our community. Our crime rates are low. And you would think Miami, we used to have crazy riots and crime rates, you know, back in the 80s and 70s. We learned our lessons and we're not repeating the same mistakes that we did before. So it makes me very proud of how much Miami has changed and built, the gravitas behind us, the universities, how they've grown, the hospital system, our public hospital system, you know, with their partnership. And it is a partnership with the University of Miami Health System. You have academic medicine for all our community and for visitors. People come here for healthcare. So that makes me very proud. So I think it's working. And we just have to keep plugging away and make sure we can reach the most people, because every person you reach, you really change the trajectory of their life. And it is, you know, we have all these global things in place, but if you don't touch people one-on-one, I think we failed in a way. You need to really connect with people. You know, every time I give a scholarship, I follow it through. And I remain friends with them. So I give a scholarship to the 5,000 role models, one of the graduates who's studying STEM. And I have 3 graduates now. 2 of those graduates are coming back to help me interview the next scholarship winner. You know, so it's a community, and they all talk, and we all share our successes and our problems and our issues, and it's really great. You know, I really find mentorship at all levels. I mean, these students have given me insight, right, and taught me so much. So that's how I measure success.
Thank you, Anna. And I know you funded some of our scholarships here at AFP Miami, so thank you for that. Marila, did you want to share a little bit about kind of how you all measure success?
I do agree with that.
Is our mic faulty? Thank you, AR.
See if that helps.
Yes, it does.
I was saying, I agree with Anna in many of the points that she made. And Miami is a transient community, right? We know because we're a young community. But philanthropy should be a transformative journey. And once you see that, no matter if your community is young, if your community is transient, it's a philanthropy is a transformative journey. I see it like that. And, you know, we don't just measure it in the metrics of amounts. Does that help? Is that needed? Of course, but it's the personal impact that you can make on that one-on-one. I agree with you on the scholarships and how you go back and make them a part of that journey. We do it as well. So we have that synergy and we do it as well. So we have scholarships on the high school level. We have scholarships. All our children went to different high schools. You can imagine 5 kids, different high schools. They had one thing that they had to be a Catholic high school. There's a lot of Catholic college schools out there. So they each chose a different school, and we have scholarships in all 5 schools. And we even have one at my husband's alma mater, which is PACE. And that's where it all started, and that's where we've had, right now, it's been 5 years, and it's been about 65 recipients. And some of them we don't see because they've moved to another state or country, or we just don't keep in touch with, but there are many that we do. So that transformative journey is exactly what we see with these high school students. We now have an intern that AR is mentoring from that scholarship. And again, for us, it's measured.
And
as
he's
a
going to law
journey.
school.
Yes.
Very important.
Yes. So it's a journey, right? And you measure those successes by those that you serve, by those that you can see. And it's very individual for us.
That's great. Thank you. I'm also a PACE graduate, so thank
There you
you
go.
to Jorge Luis for that.
Nice.
You know, we've talked a lot about this personal connection, how you make that personal impact on individuals. But I'm curious to know, and I'm sure most of the room, given the type of work that we're in, what makes you all feel valued by a nonprofit partner? What makes you feel like, okay, this is the right space, the right people, and making the right decision here? And we talked about time, we've talked about treasure, and how personal and valuable your time is to you and how you spend it. So what makes you feel valued by a nonprofit? And AR, do you want to start? Because that might look different from you and your mom too.
So I've had the pleasure of sitting in very small boards. As obviously I grow up, I get to follow in my parents' footsteps. But on a personal level, on my boards, transparency. That's the one thing I ask for. That's the one thing that shows me that my board is coming back to me, that my board is able to come back to the rest of our community, let them know, hey, look, this is what we did and this is what we didn't do. Very important that they show both sides of that coin. That way we know here's what we have to do next. And ultimately, I feel valued by my smaller boards when we come together and say, hey, we didn't do this, so let's do it.
Action oriented.
Yeah. Collaboration. When they want to collaborate with us, like Anna said, you know, donors are not just a paycheck. We want to collaborate. We want to serve. We want to give back in a volunteer way as well. It's not just let me write the check and walk away. So the best way to engage us, is ask. Ask me my opinion, ask me how I can help. That's the best way to show us that you believe in what we have to offer. Yeah, for me, it's just staying connected. You know, getting an email every now and then telling us how what we're doing is helping. And I would say that one of the things my son would say, and he's very involved with Link and young leaders at United Way. One of the things he would say is to build a community with other board members that are there. So sometimes it's great, the connection between the nonprofit and the individuals, but the nonprofit needs to facilitate that connection between the individuals, because ultimately it's kind of nice for them to, and I hate to use this word, and I hate when people use it, like-minded individuals,
because I really don't want to be around like-minded individuals. I want to be around people who challenge me, but like-minded in the way that they want to give back. So he would like tell me, so I'm with this group and we're doing this project, but then I invite them all to my birthday party and one comes. Or I tell them, hey, it's like I make it easy for them, but they're like, oh, you know, and he's like, but part of me getting involved is also building a community because we're stronger in number. We can do something more together than I can alone. So, and by knowing each other, even in a social level, we can work better together. So that is the one thing I would say that the younger generation seeks, is that community of their age group, as well as connecting to the, you know, more seasoned philanthropists, but so that they like each other, so that they want to share in other experiences, because that'll bring, I guess, the flavor, the color of philanthropy home, and that'll actually probably even encourage further engagement because they like each other. They know each other outside of the Zoom meeting. Right.
Thank you, Anna. And speaking of the next generation and your son Eric, who couldn't be here today, how do you what's the legacy that you kind of want to pass on to that next generation?
So my legacy would be to honor the past, keep that immigrant experience, which I find it to be so powerful. You need to keep that with you, and you need to make sure it's, I don't know, bound to your genes so that your next generation, you know, they have an adage that says the first generation makes it, the second generation, you know, kind of keeps it going, and the third generation just totally blows it. So I have said that to my kids ever since I learned it from a banker and from a financial lecture I went to, since they were, I don't know, maybe in their tweens. I said, you guys are not going to blow it on my watch. So I tell them that all the time, and I say, your kids can't blow it. And every time I see them doing something that I'm like, do you really think that's the right decision that you should do? I mean, like, I don't care if you have enough. It's whether you're using that enough in the right way. And you need to honor that immigrant experience, and you need to have that hunger, which is why my daughter is struggling in Atlanta, you know, working like 60 hours, 70 hours a week. And I said, you really don't need to, but she does, because you get a special sense of accomplishment that's really not tied to your paycheck, but you have to have a maturity to realize that you're not worth your paycheck. You're worth so much more. Sometimes you're worth less, and let's get real, but you are worth so much more if you know how to maximize your time and your night, and you know how to properly use your time and you know, time management kind of systems and stuff. But for me, that is the legacy. Honor your past, bring it forward, give back. You know, my son and I both received, my son Eric both received the Isaac Bashevis Singer Scholarship at the University of Miami, full merit scholarship. That's the only reason, that's the only way I could have gone. And that he got it was such a treat, which is also why he's so involved at UM. He says, you guys didn't have to pay for me, you know, so I really need to give back to UM because they facilitated that for me. And it's a source of pride, which is also why I tell academic institutions, it's not about meeting need. You can't take away from merit to meet need. I know you need to meet need, but you need to find money to celebrate merit, because I don't care whether your parents can pay for your college education. When you're able to earn a scholarship, it's that earning, that being able to pay your way, not have to depend on your parents, which are the ones with the money, realistically, is very powerful. And that immigrant experience that goes with it. You know, it's that you earned your way and that you're grateful to this country for everything it gives you. I'm very patriotic when it comes to America. And I know that we're supposed to be no longer a melting pot, but we're supposed to keep our traditions. But every time I see someone who's not from here, someone like me, saying, oh, in this country, things were this way, I'm like, go back, because I am not going to go back to Cuba. I am a Cuban American. My parents told me I'm an American, you know, thanks to Girl Scouts. And so for me, that's really important, to embrace this country. And how do you become an American? How do you embrace? By giving back and making sure others have an opportunity to better themselves.
Thank you, Anna. Marilyn,
question?
would you mind- Yes, we would love to hear from you, please, that legacy piece.
So legacy, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm not thinking legacy yet. I'm not there. But but no, in all seriousness, I think l- you know, legacy within philanthropy, I think philanthropy is a systematic change. The legacy is not to give to a charity and move on to the next charity, is to look at the mission and make a systematic change in that whole mission, in that whole cause, the root cause of it. And, it includes the commitment to social justice. It includes for us the eagerness to address poverty and inequality at the root cause. So those are things that we as immigrants, very well stated, look at, intrinsically are aware, right? So systematic change would be something that I would think of as a legacy, because when I think of poverty, I think of why did it start and how can we change that? Systematically change it, not just charity. No, philanthropy is not charity. And therefore, legacy comes from changing something. So
Thank you. Very well put, Marile. We have one more question for you all, speaking about legacy. How do you, as a family, kind of mentor this next generation and involve the entire family? I know, Anna, you spoke earlier about the foundation, and it's a little more formalized, and Marile, you and your children in your foundation as well. Can you speak a little to that, the legacy piece, but how do you formally kind of mentor and steward that relationship to continue your legacy moving forward?
I'll take that and I'm going to take it away from my family. I don't need to mentor my family. They've grown up in it. They've seen it. It's it's intrinsic already in them. So we have a lot of newcomers in Miami. Miami is a new New York, a new Chicago, a new LA. We have so many new opportunities and new chances to get people involved. So I no longer serve on boards. I had the honor and privilege of serving at one time on 12 boards simultaneously. And I had the privilege and honor of being the chair of Nicholas Children, which was Miami Children, 6-year tenure. It was under my tenure that we changed the name and had a $150 million campaign, which Pietro was also part of that with us. I no longer serve on boards. I no longer do this, but I do mentor those young women that are coming, and they're not 22 or, they're in their 40s and they have careers and they have children and they understand the need of giving in our community of their time. So I've taken a group of friends, amazing young women in their 40s, that want to learn more about Miami, that want to network and be part of our culture, be part of our giving, be part of that. So that's the mentoring I am doing now. And by name, Jenny Koba, who now is spearheading Vizcaya, is one of my closest and dear friends. And I feel that I'm mentoring her. Tatiana Teo, a wonderful woman that all of you should know, a doctor who believes in not only here, gives back to missions, but goes out to Honduras and puts on her scrubs and helps. Camila Gividite, who does the same thing. So these are women who are in our community, who want to learn, who want to give back. And I'm honored to now do that, mentor them. My children, I don't need to mentor. My adult children, they're there. These women don't need me to mentor them. They need an introduction. They need a network to be able to feel comfortable and come in. And who taught me that was our dear friend Trish Bell. So Trish taught me that. Trish opened the doors for me. She is my mentor. So that's what I'm doing with these newfound friends, and they're amazing. They're changing and bringing new ideas of just ways of fundraising differently and ways of engagement, and the way they want to be engaged is also different. And it's a good thing to know that, because they're the next generation.
A wonderful network to continue
Yes,
building.
absolutely.
Yes, so my family is a little different because so we have my nuclear family with my 3 kids, But the third generation also includes my two brother-in-law's children and then my sister's daughter. So this family meeting is very important in our Sundays because it's not just us. So I'm also bringing in my nieces and nephews, and they're from I wouldn't say all ages, but there's still one is still in college, and then the rest have advanced degrees, and they range all over the place. So it's very important that they stay connected. I mean, the effort is so much that my husband flew to Atlanta with my two nieces, one who has a baby and one who is at University of Florida, finishing her first year and just got off. So to go see a Bad Bunny concert, which I hear was horrific, but he just wanted the three girls to connect. And this was like one of the few things. But that connection is what leads to, hey, I need you to come here with me, or let's go to the mayor's ball together. I want you to, see more what we're doing. That kind of engagement and connection is what allows me to do that. So it's a little different. So I don't think I mentor them as much as lead by example. And they trust in me to follow that example. So I'm very proud of that connection. And now my oldest son is about to have a baby in about a month. So the fourth generation is coming online, and that's going to be a whole different story, right? So I need to make sure that the third generation is solid, so that the fourth generation comes, we can continue doing the work.
Congratulations, Anna.
Thank you.
Maybe we could sign up the fourth generation
Yeah.
too for a conversation. So we've kind of covered a couple of different areas and topics, but we have a couple of minutes to open it up to the floor here, and maybe get one or two questions at most if anyone has anything they'd like to ask. Oh, Pietro, sure. We have a mic coming so we do have a Zoom call active. We want everyone to hear.
First of all, thank you all so much for being here. It really means a lot to hear from our supporters, people that we've gotten to know who really move the needle forward for the work that we all do. So this is a question for anyone in the group, but knowing how far and wide the philanthropic landscape in Greater Miami is growing, with so many new nonprofits coming to surface to meet the pressing and growing needs of our community, what are some steps that a nonprofit partner that you may not be very familiar with, and you may not know, you may have heard of them, you hear they do good work, but you have not become intimately or philanthropically involved, you've not been engaged. What are some steps that they can take to become a charity of choice or to become part of that pre-select list of nonprofit partners to consider? What are some things that are meaningful to you that are just beyond the impact reporting that really create something very special and personalized to bring that engagement forward?
Well, for me, we're right now so overextended that that's a really tough decision. Plus, my time is also very limited because I do serve on multiple boards, and I just don't sit in the meetings. I'm on committees. I'm active, changing bylaws, looking at financials, doing RFPs for financial organizations all over the board, and of course fundraising. But for me, it's very interesting because I look for a connection. First of all, it has to meet one of our criteria. I don't do arts. I don't, unless it's part of the school system, which then I consider it to be part of education. But I kind of stay within my areas, which already are very broad. But I look forward to see how I can help. And sometimes, for example, Easter seals was a great point. So I had a meeting at my house, which I hosted for the University of Miami to raise money for a special Lancet commission, which for me was elevating to the University of Miami as well as to South Florida. This will be the second Lancet commission coming out of the University of Miami. And for those who don't know, Lancet is one of the top two, arguably the top medical and public health magazine and resource for the world. It's published in England. It's like the New England Journal of Medicine. So having that was very important. And I thought, I know that Easter Seals has a coffee cart. And I said, well, instead of getting coffee from a vendor, I'll get coffee from the Easter Seals kids. And that'll also give them an audience to talk about what Easter Seals does. And we'll get to meet the kids, the students, who are putting on the coffee cart. And then we had met various times and we had talked about doing something for Easter Seals, which was special. And they have this great culinary arts program. And I have a chef on our boat. And I said, you know what? I asked the chef, do you mind teaching a group of students from Easter Seals and put a menu together and have dinner with them? And so we did that. So more kids came, and then we went over to the boat, which was right there. And our chef had a great time. He prepared a meal with them, and they ate together. And it was really, really wonderful because they got an experience that many of us would have loved to have. And it's something they can take back to their homes. And then we had your student, your teacher, your lead chef also come. And it was just a beautiful thing. I couldn't stay through the whole thing, but I did go in there. We took pictures, and just everyone, that was there, that was a supporter of UM, got to see it. And every once in a while, I'll get a question about the coffee cart, and I'll get a question. So I was able to bring those two together in my limited time at the same time, and being able to offer that. Another thing I do is Girl Scout cookies. Every time I have any event having to do with schools or students, I put out Girl Scout cookies, and that starts a conversation. Oh, and everybody loves it. They love to get Girl Scout cookies. I put the box in front of the cookies so that they see where the cookies are, and it starts. So I try to mingle and mix because there's a lot of synergies. And I will tell you, every time somebody wants to start a nonprofit, I just tell them politely, please don't. We have so many nonprofits that I'm sure you can find what you're trying to do in one of the many nonprofits that are already established. There's a lot of overhead. People don't realize. You need to get an accountant to do your 990. You need to keep track of your records. You need to, stay in compliance. There's a lot of work behind it. So if you really want to dedicate yourself to a mission, you can find some place where you can even have your own little committee in one of the nonprofits that are already established. So that's my advice.
Would you like me to take it as well? Oh, okay. So, I agree. There's a lot of need, but there's a lot of organizations already fulfilling that need. Very true. In my past life, I was in sales. My mother is a bridal headpiece designer. It's a global company now, but we started literally in a room in her home. Right now, they are a global leading business. Her latest client was Paris Hilton, right? So not too shabby. But I know what it's like to make a cold call. I know what it's like to pick up that phone and say, would you please see my line? I know what it was like to try to get into Bergdorf Goodman when nobody wanted a Maria Elena, Latino line. So I do pick up that call. You call me, I pick it up. I might not talk to you for 30 minutes, but I'll pick it up. And if it's something that I can refer it to someone else, I might have another interest, I will. Because I had done those cold calls, right? And I have been on that other end when I have served on a board. Nicholas Children, I would, I would sit down as the chair and I would make those calls from the doctors to the board members to community. Hey, will you give us $1? Right? Because we're on a campaign mode and we're saving lives. So yeah, I know what it's like to make cold calls, and I appreciate and I pick it up because I've been there. So I agree. There's enough organizations out there that someone can find their little spot. But if they call me and they're new, I'll hear them out. Of course I will, right? And if I can't help because it's not part of what our family foundation does, or I just don't have the time for whatever reason, because I think I have 48 hours in a day, which it's a secret I do, I'll pass it on to someone who likes that cause.
Yeah, Maria, I do exactly the same thing. So I do take calls, I answer emails, and persistence is very important for you all. So one call, you email me 3 times, 5 times, 10 times. I do not get upset. I already get a bunch of emails, hundreds. So, but it's persistence, because if I ever open up, I have this woman from the book fair, or from the group that puts on, that they want to do books, and she has been so persistent, and I am going to give her money. I am going to sponsor one of those book sites for students, but I just haven't been able to yet. But I will, and those emails keep coming, and I keep starring them, and I keep putting them in a special place. So persistence is very important, and I don't get mad. You get mad? No, I actually appreciate it because it puts a reminder.
The moral of the story is pick up the phone and send the email for sure.
Again and
uh,
again.
Again and again, yes. Oh, we are good at that. We definitely will. I love that you integrate the Girl Scout cookies too. I'm personally biased to Samoas, so.
Yes, we all are.
They're delicious. Is there another question? We have time for one more. Wonderful, we have someone here.
Thank you so much for this very insightful look into your families, and thank you for everything that you do to our community. My name is Fernanda Jorgensen. I'm the Executive Director of Philanthropy Miami, and we help increase the ability of the ecosystem, philanthropic ecosystem here in Miami, to drive social change by providing opportunities for education, collaboration, and networking that really enhance our sense of community. And I've only been in the role for about 10 months, and something that I keep hearing over and over, that Miami is not a very sophisticated city when it comes to philanthropy. And Anna, you mentioned something that one of your philanthropic philosophies is to elevate the status of Miami. And Marile, you also mentioned that philanthropy is a transformative journey. So how does that make you feel hearing that? Because I disagree, but how can we elevate our ecosystem? How can we elevate philanthropy in Miami so that we are comparable to all those other great cities across the country and across the world?
You know, I have an idea about that. So Hispanics don't tend to give out openly like that. It's not part of the culture. But Hispanics do give in many ways that are very hidden and very secret. So they might give to their neighbor. They might give they might even pay somebody's college expense. You know, they give to their church, and it might be in cash, so it's not counted. They give to La Liga contra el Cáncer, you know, and it might be cash, or it might be help, or it might be volunteering. So I think we need to maybe look at how we count philanthropy. And there's another thing, it's always money. And I get into this debate at the University of Miami because what they count is money. The campaign is always money. And I go, how about putting some engagement in there? How about putting how many hours volunteers have given? How many professionals have come and done lectures and mentored the students? How about how many canes they have this hire a cane program? How many canes have been hired through this program? And why don't you look at it differently? Like I said, time, talent, treasure, tithes, and testimonials. Maybe there should be a component of all that to measure philanthropy. Because, you know, we have a problem in Miami that we can never be New York, nor do I want to. But when they do philanthropy, when they invite kids to their zoo, the kids take the subway for free. They're students. We don't have that facility. Carlos, when we take kids to the zoo, what's the biggest expense? The bus. The bus. And that's all over. So Miami-Dade being so large, when you want to bring someone from North Miami who's never seen the beach to the beach, transportation. So that's something we're going to have to grapple with. So it's different. So that's why they can get more done in New York than they can in Miami. But that's also the beauty of Miami, that we're by the water and we have all these great things. We're like living on vacation. And you know, that there's a cost to that. But I think philanthropy needs to be measured in different ways, and not just how many checks have been given.
And I'll take it for my mom. So it comes down, Ms. Kinson, and you mentioned it, and we've mentioned it as well, and you're spot on. How do we enhance the community? One-on-one approach. It's the individual level. My parents and Ms. Anna Milton, they have a holistic approach. They have a way to assist the system. But how can we help our generation, me and you, on the floor? It's that one-on-one. It's the mentorship we do with the recipients of our scholarships. It's the continuous connection that Anna does. It's the ability that my parents have provided for us as their children to be able to go out and say, let's see what opportunities are out there for others. So where do we start? On the individual approach. How do we help Miami in the future? It's enhancing today, doing what we can today, making sure that one-on-one, you complete your tasks.
Thank you so much.
One more added, you know, this proverbial brain drain that happens in Miami. So you have all these great university students that graduate here and then they leave. And then you have students from elsewhere who don't find the right jobs here. I mean, one of the reasons my daughter left is because she would be getting paid more as an attorney, and she felt more respected and valued in an Atlanta firm than in Miami. So how can we change that? Because this generation needs to feel valued. They need, it's our generation, you kind of just threw us there, and this generation needs to feel it. They need to feel the love. They need to feel that because their time is valuable, they need to feel that their time is the most valued when they're valued and they're working someplace, valued, and they're paid what they need to be paid. They shouldn't be paid what Florida pays. They should be paid what New Yorkers pay because that is the cost of living here. They like to group us with the South, but we're not the South. We're like the Northeast. And that's when even philanthropy, how they group us, they kind of compare it, oh, the South, Miami is different. And we need to tell the world, show the world our differences.
I'm gonna add real quick too. I think by uniting with organizations that have that global, right, trademark name, that helps us in Miami also by doing synergistic things with them. On the climate, what is being done with the Aspen Institute is a great example. So yes, we have the problem and they have the solution. Well, it's good to join forces, right? It's a wonderful opportunity to do that. I'm part of IWF. I don't know if some of you ladies are aware, that's International Women's Forum. And we host these dine-arounds once a month. And I'm hosting the Aspen Institute here in my home on June 10th. Sorry, gentlemen, it's a ladies' event. I invite all you ladies to go and hear what the two of the directors that are coming from the Aspen Institute, hear what they're talking about environmental change, systematic change, youth and empowerment, all of this. So it's organizations like that, these think tanks, right? Because that's what this is, these think tanks that we can learn from, because that's a great opportunity. Let's unite with organizations, these think tanks that can bring that to us. We might not know it all. We don't. Let's continue that dialogue with them as well. So any of you who want to go, please let me know, and I'll be more than happy to extend that invitation. And it's a wonderful opportunity for your organizations to reach out to the Aspen Institute.
No, that's awesome. And to elaborate on that, bringing foundation dollars, national and international foundation dollars to Miami is also elevating Miami. I know that our mayor was very successful in bringing like the Ford Foundation to help fund one of her initiatives. I forgot what, something Miami. We were funders of it, so I sort of. But at the beginning, and it was the first time the Ford Foundation had ever given money to Miami-Dade. So it's really, and they gave it through the Miami Foundation. So it's really important, especially if you get a grant from one of these national organizations. I think it's important to publicize that, because like then they'll feel the love and be more encouraged also to give. The Knight Foundation does incredible work here in South Florida, but they're based here. But we need to get those others that are based elsewhere to come and give back. The Goizueta Foundation also gives a lot of money here, and it's kind of quiet other than the UM, but I've learned a lot about them. And, it just, so we talked about the 5 T's. I've mentioned them: time, talent, treasure, ties, and testimonials. Testimonials, this is like the proverbial tree. If you don't say what you're doing, no one knows about it. And it didn't happen. So you really have to be active and say and talk about these grants and these national foundations, because I think that'll help elevate, along with the Aspen Institute, the more academic, I guess, or research-based organizations, how we're connecting with them in South Florida. We are ground zero for so many things. So everyone is just repeating what they've been doing. We are ground zero. And that gives us, that's good and bad. But the good thing is that we can start something new. The bad thing is that it hasn't been done before, right? So we have no models to follow. But everyone wants to be here. I'm so sure of it. They just don't know how to find their way in. So maybe the philanthropic community can help.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, AR, Marile, and Anna, for your wonderful insight. I have worked in the nonprofit sector my entire career, so I always, as I know the room does, value these conversations that are intimate and personal to learn about you all, your philanthropic work, and how we can all be better partners to you and eventually, figure out how to solve these big problems and make an extraordinary impact in the community. So we want to thank you and hand you something as a thank you.
Thank you.
So we can't thank you enough for coming. And Marilyn, I understand it was your birthday a couple of days ago,
It
so
was.
wish you a happy birthday as well.
Thank you.
So
It was
thank you.
25.
Shh, you didn't hear
Even though I have a, 30-year-old.
it. So thank you for sharing your perspective. It was a wonderful session for all of you. Thank you again. Let's give our panel another round of applause. So before everybody goes, I want to talk to you about June, our June educational program. It's going to be held right here Wednesday, June 12th at Camilla's. We have another panel discussion. Our topic for June is maximizing your special events. And further down the road, I know Anna was talking about foundations. We want to have a meet the funders with some representatives from some of our local foundations here in the fall. So thank you all for coming. Thanks again. We look forward to seeing you next month. Take care.